Our latest Spotlight Cash card releases here in Copycat, a 3/5 who, when drawn, steals the text of the bottom card of your opponent's deck, meaning she gains its effect. And if by chance they happen to draw that card that was at the bottom of their deck when you drew Copycat, it will be textless. It's noteworthy that your opponent does not see Copycat what is being taken, and technically they aren't supposed to know that Copycat was drawn into your hand. However, on Copycat's release, there is a brief pause when she's being drawn currently to play the animation for you. So if you're paying really close attention, you can technically sniff out when a Copycat was added to the opponent's hand from that pause. Overall, in terms of power level, I think Copycat's kind of disappointing at the moment. The metagame is definitely defined by Erisham existing as this pretty omnipresent threat, and Copycat is incredibly lackluster into that archetype. Obviously, Erisham has a lot of individually good cards that you wouldn't mind copying, but they also have 12 random cards in their deck, many of which are going to be very mediocre for Copycat to pick an effect off of. And even if you get a good effect off of Copycat, there's no guarantee that your opponent doesn't have two copies of that card, so you're losing the benefit that this card has, which is she tells you which cards your opponent isn't going to have access to in a typical game of Marvel Snap. I will say, I think once Erisham is eventually brought to heel and isn't, half the matches or so that we're playing, I think Copycat has a lot of potential. The 3/5 stat line is solidly on rate these days, and the information that she provides, letting you know what cards your opponent is guaranteed not to have, has a lot of value when you're playing a matchup that you're familiar with, especially since that information is asymmetrical. I also don't expect her to be a must-have card by any means. She is not a card that you really build your deck around, meaning that if you see Copycat in a given deck, even if she's really playable, you usually substitute her out for another card. She's very tech adjacent. I think the most other recent release that I would compare her to is something like Red Guardian, where it has a very explicit purpose and has the potential to win you games, but it's also not the core key card in any deck that you're looking at. Overall, I think for the average Marvel Snap player right now, I'd probably recommend passing on Copycat. However, I also think that once Erisham dies down, if you end up picking her up, you'll probably have plenty of opportunities to play with her, even if it's not a strict must-have card is broken type scenario. I'm actually not going to include any specific Copycat deck lists in today's short review video because, one, I don't think she's well positioned into all the Erisham, and two, like I said, you're not really building your decks around Copycat. She's just going to be a reasonable card that you slot in when you have a slot, and you want to be able to use her utility in different ways. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed my breakdown and review of this latest Marvel Snap card release. If you did, be sure to snap that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel here on YouTube so you don't miss any updates like this one for everything going on in the game. Also, Deadpool's Diner released. I don't know that I'm going to cover specifics from that on this highlights channel, but I'll link in the video description down below to a video of me experiencing the game mode for the first time on my live stream on my secondary channel, and I talked through some thoughts on it at the end early on.